Um, in the 1981 riot, I was participating as we do at these times when you're trying to, what could I say, make a stand against the system. So we was out there on the battlefield. In 2011, it was a complete different thing. I was out there as an observer, as a community member, community leader, trying to see if I could get the youths them to maybe not do what they're doing, because I believe that you don't smash up your area, because when you wake up in the morning, it's your area that's smashed up. It's you're gonna pass all the looting and the burnt out cars. You just smash up your own area. Like in Brixton, they smash Foot Locker and we don't have a Foot Locker anymore. In the 80s, yeah, there was loads of injuries. It was lots and lots of fighting. It was like a 3-day, 3-night uprising. I should stop calling it a riot, because I don't believe on a personal level it was a riot. I believe it was an uprising in 1981. Maybe 2011 was a riot, but 81 was an uprising. The injuries that I saw people blooded up, bricks lick people in them head, police get them face smash up, broken bones, basically things that happen when people fight. Well, one of my friends got arrested. He was standing outside the cleaners and he was attacked by about 8-9 police and beaten up. There was just 3 of us, so it was hard to fight them. Even though we fought, they still got him and threw him in the back of the van and took him away. In the 80s, I didn't actually have a business. I actually started my business in 1992. We had a record shop on the lane at the time. No, we weren't affected when it wasn't my shop, but my friend had a shop and I worked in there. We weren't affected because everybody knew it was our shop, so there was no looting or nothing like that in there. In the 80s, I started making music in 1983. I started actually making music, so it was just after the riots when you wanted something else to do rather than walk about the streets and just be like everybody else. So a friend of mine called Sugar Minot, who is a famous reggae singer, suggested that maybe because I was a selector on a sound, I used to play a sound system, and he suggested that maybe I could step up from being just a selector into somebody who could actually produce music. So I took his advice and I started to produce back in 82. No, I don't believe the police targeted me personally. I mean, going back, I was targeted by the police because I was actually, I can give you a little scenario. One day I was actually outside the town hall. I'd run from Cole Harbour Lane to get a bus. I was living in Wandsworth. I'd moved to Wandsworth at the time. And I jumped on a number 35 out by the town hall. And it went to Clapham. So there's 37 buses that leave from Clapham to go to where I wanted to go. I jumped on the bus. It was only going Clapham Common, got off, stood at the bus stop, waited for the 37 to come. When I got on the bus, 2 stops after, the bus stopped, and there's a police van. The police stopped the bus, come upstairs, take me off the bus, and said them see me stealing a woman's purse. I don't know how they did that because they weren't at the bus stop when I was getting on the bus. And they actually took me into Clapham Common and beat me up and left me in the common. So I had lots of grievances with the police then. And that's why when the uprising began, you needed to get involved because it was a time when you could get a little bit of revenge. Yeah, because in 81, the riots in 81 was caused basically because of the SUS law. What transpired was, because I was actually at the beginning of the riot, so maybe we should have did this earlier, but the riot transpired because, I'm not gonna call names, I actually know the names of the people, yeah, but I'll just, someone stabbed someone else, yeah, and the guy that got stabbed ran around the corner. As he ran around the corner, there was a police car coming at the other end, and he fell in the middle of the road. The police car stopped, and we all gathered around him because he was bleeding bad. And we was so glad to see the police at the time, and we said to them, look, this guy's been stabbed, can you take him to the hospital? Obviously, King's College Hospital in a police car is like 2 to 3 minutes away. And the police turned around and said, we can't carry him, it's against the rules. We have to wait for an ambulance. This time, the youth's on the floor bleeding, and we're saying, well, you can't do that. This man need to go to hospital. If it was a policeman, what would you do? Him said, well, it would be different. So we said, different? So what's the difference? A life is a life. And that's how the actual riot started. So there's lots of stories going around about how the riot in 81 actually started. So in the beginning, when it started because of the decision of the 3 police officers that were there at the time. It didn't come from above. It was the 3 police who was in the streets who didn't take that black youth in their car. So we, as a group, there might have been about 20, 30 of us, we decided to pick him up and take him to a cab station, which was just across like 5-10 seconds away, and get him to the hospital. And the police tried to stop us from doing that. So that car got burnt, smashed up, 3 police get beat up because you can't see a virgin dying on the floor and a policeman who have siren and this thing on him car. If you carry a man to the hospital 3 minutes down the road and you're telling me it's against the rules, so the rules is gonna make this guy die. You know, in the end he didn't die, so I believe we were justified in putting him in the taxi to take him to the hospital. For the young people, it's always gonna be hard because there's this barrier, and even though racism is not overt, it's covert. So obviously, racism is a thing that is under the counter now because even if you put it up front, it's not gonna happen. So young people have to stand up and smell the coffee and knowing if you want a future without fighting one another, without fighting the police and achieving greater things, that young people need to rise up, start buying them own flat, start some little business, find out what kind of thing that interests my younger brothers then. Yeah, because what I did, when I opened my shop, I looked around at the age of 35 thinking, what could I do in the community that's gonna be supported by the community? At the time it was music was the most influential thing as a black that you could do. So I opened a record shop, I employed 3-4 people, and I said to myself, I've done my bit for the community. Little bit of me, I've employed 4 people. So I'm taking 4 people off the dole. If someone else could take 4 or 2 or 1, that's less people. So it's about using your brains, going to school, learning, using what you learn to advance yourself, and maybe you can write your business plan or people writing business plans, and if there was some, like you have something like the Dragons then if you had some black man who had a lot of money who would look at the black youths and say, inspire them, okay, you come to me with a project, I will finance that project, and not looking for the money back as a quick return, and giving the youths initiatives to go and start their own business, because you can always work for a man. I mean, personally, I've never had a job in the UK, never ever, because like I said, I grew up with racism, and I believe that I needed to be my own boss because I don't like to be told things. So I understand that I don't care attitude. I understand me no want do it. Me understand, yeah, what you telling, bro? Don't tell me to do that. I know what to do. I've got kids. I've got like from 9 years old to 33 years old. That's the scope of my children. So, and I speak to them and I understand what they're going through. Like my daughter now, she's trying to do cupcakes because I've always encouraged her to try and do your own thing. She's in a position, she wants to help. I will help her to try and advance, but not everybody's gonna have that luck. So it's about making the opportunity and taking the opportunity when it arises, because the older you get, you realize that you get an opportunity today, because life is a circle. You get the opportunity today and you make it pass. It might take you another 5 or 10 years to get another opportunity like that. And then you become 10 years older, and the frustration that's there between getting the opportunity and then now you realize that was your opportunity but you didn't grasp it. So, like I said, get up, smell the coffee, understand that you're not gonna fight your way to the top physically, but you can fight your way to the top. The white man have a saying that if you want to hide something from a black man, you just put it in a book, because black people don't read. That was the idea back then. Yeah, you hide it from a black man, you put it in a book, because black man don't read. So we need to read, we need to understand what's going on. Them have a next saying, and them say the pen is more mightier than the sword, because we can out there with the sword and fighting, and the man who is sitting in his office can just write a new law and says, right, any man who walks with a sword shall go to prison for 10 years. What you gonna do? So maybe you want to be the man that's sitting in that office writing that law and making sure that when you're writing that law, you write it to help people. Like one of my greatest heroes is Mr. Mandela. And when he got into power, he started to give all the black people jobs. And they said to him, Mandela, but what are you doing? It's just the same as apartheid. You're not giving no whites no job. He said, this is positive discrimination. He said, look, there's 500 whites that have job and 50 blacks. So what we want to do now is get it on a level. 500 blacks, 500 whites, then we have equality. Then we don't have to have or worry about if it's a black or a white person getting the job, because the black man will feel that he's in the right position now because there's 500 jobs for him and 500 jobs for the whites. So it's not about color anymore, because people have actually passed that. It's more about waking up. It's about seeing what you can do. It's about standing up, going to school, getting your education. Yes, we can do badness. Badness is the easiest thing to do. I've been there, done that. I've been doing badness from I was 14, and I didn't realize until 35. So I understand what it takes to move away from a lifestyle into another lifestyle. And it was my children that convinced me that I needed to show a different example, So I didn't really smell the coffee until 35. Even though I wasn't getting myself in trouble, I didn't really understand what you needed to step up. And then in stepping up, people then started to put me forward and say, well, you speak for the community, you're doing this for the community. I didn't put myself in a position to help out the community or do things that people, they use my shop as an advice center, and they come in, they ask for things, and only because of what I've learned, I can advise. People bring their children, please talk to my child for me, they're not going to school. And I sit them down and I said to them, say, look, the only thing that you came here with nothing, and when you leave with nothing. So during the time that you're here, try and make use of the talents that you get. And everybody's born with a talent, a gift, a present, whatever you want to call it. It's there, so it's for you to get it out of you and get it into the mainstream and go out there and earn what you can earn to advance, that you leave something for your children and their children, because if you don't, it's going to come back to the same thing that it was before, and you're going to be trying to fight for the rights that you didn't have before and you never do have. Yeah, there's lots of memories that stick for the 80s. This is where I knew that racism, because where I come from, I'm a Jamaican. I was born in Jamaica, yeah? I've never heard of racism before. That didn't exist. We didn't know those words, didn't even come into our daily vocabulary. It's only when I came to England and I went to school, you knew that white people didn't like black people. They just didn't like them. You had the ones that didn't mind us, but yeah, it was a definite dislike of black people. And I'm coming from that era where we didn't understand what this was until you had to get up and fight for your right. It's nowadays it's easier, but back in my day as a youth, I actually came to England and I lived in Crystal Palace, which was 99.9% white. I went to school in Annerley, which was 99.9% white. And my secondary school, I went to school in Beckenham, which was 150% white. So there was only like five black youths in the whole school, and we had a hard time. It was so. There's been a lot and lot of changes, and most of it for the good, because now everything is in your face. Then you could hide. A police could beat you up in the station and hide it. Now there's so many cameras now, so even those things are gonna help us as well. Yeah, it affected me because a very close friend of mine, his son died in the 2011 incident. So it affected the community greatly because he's a very well known person. Yeah, youths I know that were involved because there's a few youths that I know that got arrested. So yeah, I know people that was involved. The youth called Trevor Ellis that was actually shot in Croydon. I knew him personally. I knew his father and his family.